Oh man, Brink. Who didn't see this one coming? Brink was made by Splash Games, then published by Bethesda. Ugh, makes me shudder. I mean, what was Bethesda thinking? Anyway, Brink was made in 2011 for PC and Xbox 360, well, and PS3. Well, let's just jump right into this. Starting with the plot. The two factions, Security and Resistance, fight on a once utopian city using, okay, big air quotes here, parkour. For the record, it doesn't work very well. The game uses a smart response system, which actually means smooth movement across random terrain, and what it does is it randomly generates what it thinks and how you would react and what you might do. So in essence, it's like, hey, you want to jump over this? And no, you're trying to take cover, and then you're dead. It truly sucks. And apparently a lot of feedback initially was good, but later companies admitted the game was just fresh in the stale market. We can't really remark on the story or the online for two reasons. No one is playing online, and I simply couldn't get anywhere in the campaign. The system used to make the game was uncomfortable and made it damn near impossible to play. For that reason, it takes number one, the worst game in our opinion. So the next game we are talking about is also a housing unit. Just saying, kinda makes sense. Yeah, we are talking about Section 8, made by Time Gate Studios in 2009, and released on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. So this game looks like it was developed just in time to hop on the Halo bandwagon. Since that game was doing very well, you're a soldier in a fancy power suit in space, you can get a jetpack. How neat. Also, for the record, the entire campaign was designed with multiplayer in mind. 8 missions that play like tutorials teaching the player how the multiplayer will work. We will get to the multiplayer in a bit. The Section 8 is based on an old military group referred to as Section 8 because they were considered unfit for military duty, but were used because they were willing to do damn near suicidal missions without question. It's kinda like wanting to play this game. The maps of the game are heavily influenced by Alien and Blade Runner. Anywho, the enemies and heroes really both have logical reasons for their actions. Again, this is given because of the multiplayer, which I guess let us talk about that now. X server. Ever heard of it? No? Good. It's a program used to make servers to play on with people, and it's very poor and it's very slow. And since Section 8 tried to do a 20v20 battles in massive areas, it's kind of just lag. A lot of lag. And no one could play a proper session because the host would always have the extreme advantage. So in all, this game sucked.
Black Site. Area 51 was released in 2007 for PS3 and Xbox 360, and it's a playable game. What sets it apart is that it's utterly boring. It is branded as a stranded FPS. Published by Midway Games, it uses a regenerative health system, but only 6 weapons. The most notable is the fact that your normal soldier that you play as is a fucking tank. Plus, for the majority of the game, you can tell your 2 AI followers what to do, but it's not really used because you don't really need it, because like we said, you're a fucking tank. Oh, and there is a vehicle section, but there's not much to it, it's pretty oversimplified. The game begins with you rushing a bunker. You find an alien artifact, and then you run away. Then, cliches happen. 3 years later, the alien artifact makes aliens. And then it mutates, and you uncover symbiotic humans. You destroy the crystal, and really that's all there is to it. Not much more. Controls feel okay, it gets kind of repetitive though. Audio lacks luster, weapons feel like airsoft weapons, and the aliens are just kind of boring. Overall, it's just a simple, lame FPS, and sadly, it's not worth the $5 it sells for it, unless you're completely out of options.
Oh, Darkest Day is made for the Xbox 360, PC, and Mac in 2010. It was developed by 8 Monkeys Labs, and honestly I have no idea how this got past product review. You ever go to a Dollar Mart and glance at the toys and just said to yourself, cheap crap? That's how this game plays, as if it was made by a Dollar Mart. So in this game, you travel through time. Yeah, another one of those gimmicks. but unlike Singularity, this one sucks. Have I emphasized that enough yet? So anyways, you fight in all kinds of years, from 79 AD all the way to 1914, and a little bit into the future. Which seems semi-cool, but it really just makes little sense, since idealistically, if a soldier went back in time to save someone from death, if he did, his life would no longer exist, possibly. Or no matter what, he would fail. But enough theories, so let's go a bit deeper. The plot is about soldier being pulled to the future, Chron Tech, which is just chrono, which means time, and tech, and that means technology. Lame. Then you go through some wacky training and a variety of weapons. You find out about the bad guys, the opposites. Yes, that's what they call themselves, is the opposites. The only good thing about this game is the controls mechanics. They aren't that bad.
Red Steel. Red Steel is a first-person Wii game. It was released by Ubisoft in 2010. Now, this game was actually pretty awesome, and it's one of the few Wii games that I own. But it still sucks. The remake was awesome though. The game plays like that of a light gun shooter, but if you want, you can use a katana and a sword. However, this game was awesome in concept. Amazing concept. But its execution, it was poor. So one of the things that is commonly true to the game was their aggressive AI. It was great. They would jump over tables, constantly slide around. However, even though this would have been an amazing quality, it was kind of executed in a way that made the game near unplayable. With the enemies randomly becoming invincible, they slowly get closer and closer, and your remote randomly just freaks out, and it destroys any sense of accuracy this game needs. The plot is not terribly difficult to understand. You get attacked, wake up, fight, get a sword, then stuff goes down, something about ninjas with SMGs, then poison, and then stuff, and people died. Okay, I lied. The plot's illogical and is full of holes. It's pretty hard to follow. The game was stated to have the hardcore gamer in mind, and I gotta agree, it's no Dark Souls, but if everything isn't perfect, it's almost impossible to play.
In the Army, we call each other by first name, and my first name is Sergeant.
Viet Cong Purple Haze released in 2003 for PC. Created by Pterodon Games, which I have no idea how to pronounce. Anyway, we aren't talking about the PC version, it was actually really good. It was later ported to the Xbox and PS2, and it was abysmal. The game takes place in Vietnam. You play as a Sergeant Stephen Hawkins, a Green Beret, with a small team. Sadly, that's about it for the story. Not much to spoil in the game, but let's just say it ends with a bang. The game has a 48 out of 100 Metacritic score for console versions, but in the Czech Republic was received so well that it was nominated for Best Game. Add that you find it on a top 10 worst FPS games. Well, I'm running into a brick wall here because there's literally no information on this game on the internet. It was so boring that the reviews are almost non-existent.
Number 7, the History Channel, Battle for the Pacific. History Channel Battle for the Pacific was initially released for the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, Wii, and Microsoft Windows platforms. Billing itself as an accurate recreation of the American-Japanese conflict in the Pacific, this game casts you as an American GI stationed on Wake Island shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor. An informative but hardly entertaining cutscene introduces the level and subsequent ones. Sadly, these boring cutscenes are about the closest thing you'll find to a compelling narrative in this game. So the game opens. You're told by a radio operator to collect parts for his radio, which has apparently been damaged, though no visible damage to either the radio or the surrounding area can be seen, thanks to the not-so-awesome graphics engine. Once the radio operator explains your mission, the waypoint marker then fills the middle of the screen and holds your hand all the way to the 3 crates you need to visit to collect the parts. Despite the supposed danger, the radio operator sits unprotected under a canvas tent with a calm expression on his face. Along the way, you'll also encounter some of your own troops who seem unconcerned that their lives are at risk as they stand around leisurely in the trenches. In Battle for the Pacific, you are almost constantly reminded that you are playing a terrible video game thanks to the pathetic AI and lackluster presentation. Number 8, Rainbow Six. The game setup is this. 3 team members are sent to various locations in the perimeter of an enemy compound. You can switch between them whenever. There's a fixed goal and a somewhat mutable number of terrorists. Terrorists must be dispatched by shot, but they aren't exactly suspicious. Maybe they're partially deaf? They have a tendency to pop back up if you switch a team member, but they'll stay dead if you don't. There's actually no need to switch characters if you accomplish the mission using just one man. It's actually way easier to ignore the team play gimmick. The control is best described as awkward. The left analog stick moves your character forward, back, from side to side, and the right one turns your character. Your highly trained, hardened soldier has an amusingly proclivity for getting caught on door frames. A cool hybrid strategy FPS was ripped from the PC and plopped down into PlayStation in an entirely uninteresting way. What remains is an uninspired shooter with some weird hostage-saving minigames icon.
Name and rank.
Sergeant Joe Hartsock, sir, but they call me Red.
Number 9, Brothers in Arm, Double Time. Brothers in Arm, released September 2008 on the Wii, takes a tactical approach to gunplay, forcing you to think and strategize before taking on a group of enemies. Using the Wii Remote as your cursor, you can order your squads to move around the map, suppress enemies, or charge them with assault. Unfortunately, your squad mates are as reliable as a rusty pistol. They can manage to navigate the environment and join you in the battle, even lucky if they survive, considering they have a knack for standing in line of enemy fire. Your lame allies will be a constant nuisance against the tenacious enemies with a tendency to pop up out of nowhere and flank you at every opportunity. The controls do little to ease the frustration of being stuck with idiots for teammates. The setup works adequately for shooting, with a remote handling aiming and looking, and a nunchuck handling movement, but in hectic battles with flanking enemies, they aren't responsive enough. Visually, Brothers in Arms were at the top of its class in 2005, but you wouldn't know it from this port. Nearly every texture has a blurred, muddy look. If it weren't for the big red circles that appear over their heads, you need to be able to tell a Nazi from a bush. The frame rate isn't good, and the game will frequently freeze for 2 or 3 seconds to catch its breath, giving you ample time to soak in the blurry countryside.
Conflict Denied Ops was released in February of 2008 for PS3, Xbox 360, and PC. This game was developed by Pivotal Games. They also created Conflict Marvels. However, these little gems never really made it past the coal mine. The story takes place in a fictional world during a fictional war in Venezuela. Then some shit goes down and all of a sudden a nuclear war is happening. And if you arrest some guy named Ramirez, and somehow it stops the nuclear war from ever starting. This game was deemed lame and unorganized, and mostly unoriginal. From a player standpoint, this game isn't actually the worst game I've ever played. The game was simply not executed to its fullest potential, in comparison to an Army of Two, which was released in March of 2008. It is severely underwhelming, and it caused a strong pull to the box office to play the third-person alternative version of Army of Two. Did I mention that all these past Conflict games were developed in third person? Why change a system that isn't broke?